Hi, Crethensis here, and you join me in the salubrious environs of my lounge. And this video is going to be about side spin. Now, rather inconveniently, I've got some balls to clear up, so let's just deal with those now. Oh, amazing. I wish I could do that break when I was in game. That would be really good if I could just pull that one off in competition, but sadly it never happens. Now, side spin. It's something we all know a little bit about, I'm sure, or maybe some of you know a lot about it, but it's not something we necessarily dive into in any great detail. I think most players know enough to realise that when they want to get onto a particular ball, the natural angle they can see won't work, and they can somewhat influence the white ball with a bit of side spin. But have you ever taken the time to really discover what's possible? I find this exercise very useful to discover the limits and the potential of side spin on a table. And I urge you to do this in Miracle Pool, but also on a real table when you get the chance. Tables will differ. The cloth will resist and wear the side spin off at a different rate on a different table. The cushions will interact differently and induce slightly different angles according to the condition, how much they're going to grip onto the ball or not, how hard the bounce is. In Miracle Pool, these cushions are actually perfect reflectors, and the side spin that's induced is sort of artificially, the angle that's induced by the side spin is sort of artificially put onto the ball. It's not sort of physically simulated particularly. But if we get down here, we can start to look at what kind of side spin is possible. I like doing it along this line because it gives you a line to see where you went and what happened. And I'm going to start with the barest, tiniest amount of side spin. You can see they're just off centre. And let's see what the ball does. And the answer is almost nothing. Let's come back. I need to remember to use reset on this to get the same position. Tiniest little bit. A little bit harder. We got a little effect there. Okay. Let's go the other extreme, all the way to the side. Now, yeah, I suppose you could do this in real life. I probably would limit my side to about there in real life because I would worry about skidding off the ball. But let's play that maximum side spin. That's a very useful point of reference. We went all the way into the middle bag. And you're going to be unsurprised to find that if we do the same on the other side, we will most likely get very close to, we'll go into, well, almost into the corner. So that shows us sort of the limits. And along this line, it doesn't matter where we do this along this line, we can do it from here. And the result, of course, is going to be more or less the same because, of course, it's much the same. Oh, went in that time. Much the same interaction that it's having on the same line. We can do it from the spot, or we can do it from the edge. So there we are. We've got a sort of limit. And this is very helpful because you can move around the table, and if you're in another position, of course, you've got this reference. You can always pop over to this point of the table and look at that angle. There it is. And it's like a 30-degree thing. It's about 30 degrees. Is a good point of reference. So if you're over here, you can kind of try and judge that. Now, if we undo that, bring the ball back, we can also think about the opposite and equal reaction to that in a Newtonian sense, which is, what if we go over here and we put the opposite side on and we hit the ball just there on the line, hopefully, be about there. What happens then? Now, that's interesting. We got a very similar reaction, but it wasn't quite the same. What's going on there? Why didn't we get the same reaction coming back? Why didn't we just land right on this line? We actually came away from the line. We ended up landing about here on the cushion. It was a little bit further forward of the line. Well, when we come back, we're not just side spinning, we're also rolling forwards. And so the natural roll of the ball slightly pushes it forwards off the line. The side spin is quite dominant because it's quite a strong effect you're putting on it. But the top spin of the ball actually pushes it away from the line a little bit. And there's also something else happening on this side as a point of comparison. When you put extreme side on, you'll find that the roll of the ball is actually pushing it ever so slightly further forwards. So when you do this, part of that angle component, put this back, part of that angle component is actually brought about because of topspin, because as the ball comes away, it's still pushing forwards. And we can test that out a little bit. If we go very, very close to the cushion, like this, and we play into it with maximum side, there, it's not the same. And that's because this ball didn't have the forward roll component that slightly pushed in that direction. So that's just something to be aware of. Consider the topspin as well as the side spin. So that's one way we can calibrate it. And again, if we come back here, we can now work our way to the side, one tip of side, which is about there. Let's put one tip of side on. And what do we get? Well, at that pace, we get almost to the one diamond along. If we go a little harder, what do we get? Less will have worn off, maybe. We go a little bit further. You've got to remember, it wears off over time. Think about time, not so much distance. It's the time of contact. Time and distance are related, but it's really the time that is wearing off the side spin. Let's go a little less than the extreme side, just here. And we get almost to the pocket. If we keep doing that kind of exercise, we can really calibrate how we think about side and what we expect from it, and have realistic expectations of it. One thing to note, of course, is that the ball will pick up side from its interactions with the cushions. So if I play the ball into here, we won't get a completely pure line out of it when it does the second contact on the next cushion. What we'll see is it straightens up slightly. So we'd expect something more out there, but it comes there. The reason is, when the ball interacts with the cushion, it picks up an amount of side that the cushion gives it side spin. So let's move on to some practical application. One exercise you might have seen done many, many times. Good old Miracle Pool can stand right in the middle of the table. I'm going to make this a nice easy pot, straight in. A nice straight in pot. There we are. We'll go one diamond away on both axes. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Fine. Right. And we're going to, oh God, stay still. We're going to line up the ball here. A nice, easy pot. All right. That's pretty straightforward. Using side spin, we can get all sorts of manipulations on the ball. The natural on this is pretty much straight into the cushion. If I play this just straight, plain ball, one tip of topspin, it's pretty much straight in, right? It's coming directly out. Once the topspin takes, it goes pretty much directly into there. And from there, well, it's unsurprising that we can get much the same manipulations as we did. Oh, helps if you actually pot it. Much the same manipulations that we did when we were doing the experiment here. I mean, in that one, a lot of the pace had gone off the ball, so it didn't really have much to do. But here, lots of side spin. Let's go the other way. Lots of side spin. Now, in these cases, a lot of the pace has been taken out, so the side spin has an even more dominant effect. If we play it with top and lots of side, we'll find it goes in and then comes out, much more like when we came across. And the same on this side, top and left. And we can get across there. And again, experiment with just small amounts of side, and you can just see the effect that they have. That just brings it across a little bit. And again, here, if I just give it a little bit of side there, and it's not too extreme. Well, that was actually a bit more than I intended, I think. So you can manipulate the ball with the side spin, no backspin required. It's just occasionally that's what the position play can demand. And there are all sorts of exercises where you put balls around and you try and make contact with those balls using manipulations of side spin and, of course, factoring backspin and topspin as well. Another practical application, and something to bear in mind with how side spin interacts with the cushions, is that side spin can survive a contact with a cushion or even a couple. So if I put right hand side on this shot into this cushion, it will slow it down a little off the cushion, but it will keep its right hand side to some extent when it interacts with the next cushion. So in this situation, yes, we could come across here, but no, we can't. we can go for this shot something like this. Now, I'll admit that took me a few attempts. I've had to edit that. But once you get used to how that works, there are occasions where that is really, really useful. And, you know, I urge you to try it out. You can just sort of get used to it. Here's a failure, probably. Now, that's getting close. But look, I'm making contact with that first. Not what you would want. You'd lose the match. But, you know, in some situations, you can make that work for you. One thing to note about side with backspin is that you kind of get the opposite of what you might expect. If you think about it, it makes sense. If you put right-hand side on this, it's going to be right-hand side from the perspective of the cue ball when it interacts with the cue ball coming back with backspin. So if I put right-hand side on, it's going to have right-hand side from this perspective when it comes back. And so it will shoot off in this direction much more. So I'll just do that now for you. Boing. Came in at this angle, shot off at that angle. Likewise, in the other direction, so we can use a sort of a bit like a check side. And that actually even undid the angle completely, which is another thing to be aware of. You can actually completely undo the angle that you're taking on. So if we do that here, we can actually, if we come here, we've got some angle, but actually with extreme side, it'll come back completely unnaturally away from that angle. That's another one to work on and see what's possible, see what the extremes are. We already saw what one of the extremes would be from this angle earlier, where we can kind of get this to follow the line, almost, except for the topspin influence. Anyway, that's it for this video about side. I hope that helps. Bye for now.